Hibiscus Moon here with hibiscusmoon.com, and today I want to talk about how to cleanse your crystals. But I have a different take on that whole subject, and I had an older video about this, but I decided it was high time to update it and give you my condensed version and information on this subject. Okay, let's get started. So first of all, the whole idea of cleansing your crystals is one that I've never resonated with. When I first started learning about crystals, of course I went to the books, and I'm going to put this guy down, he's heavy, and everybody, not everybody, but a lot of them would talk about cleansing your crystals. And then especially when we took things to online, like I remember seeing way back in like 2005 or something like that, a big movement of everybody talking about crystals and cleansing. Then YouTube came along, and I remember seeing a lot of people talking about how to cleanse crystals, and I was part of that crowd, don't get me wrong. But it never really sat right with me, because I was always wondering, well, if crystals can maintain their stability so well, this was something that I was really on board with and really aligned with me, and I knew to be true for myself. Why do they need to be cleansed? Why are we using them as tools to help us if they are so vulnerable? And in working with them more and more, and in researching, and then in also working with my students and teaching my students and getting their feedback, it became quite evident that it didn't feel like they needed to be cleansed on an ongoing basis so much. And this all goes back to a crystal structure and a term that I call the dominant oscillatory rate. Everything is vibration. Everything oscillates and has this vibration. We have a lot of vibrations making up who we are as a physical body and as an energetic body as well. A lot of things going on, and we don't have a lot of preciseness in how we're built, especially if you look at our molecular makeup. We're very random. We have some liquid crystal going on, but we're not mostly liquid crystal. Whereas a crystal, the whole definition of a crystal is that its molecules are built in a very specific, repeating geometric pattern. There's no randomness to it. There might be a glitch here and there, but it's a very specific, repeating geometric pattern in the way that its molecules are arranged. And that is the definition of a crystal. So because of that, it has a very stable vibration that it emits in like a bubble around itself, okay? And yes, that oscillatory rate or vibration, some call it a base resonant frequency, that's a common term in physics, can get knocked out of place in a crystal. Ours gets knocked out all the time, very easily. It can happen in a crystal, but it has to be a very high amplitude energy with a lot of energy, okay? So, and when it happens to a crystal, the crystal will naturally realign itself back to its dominant oscillatory rate, where it naturally wants to be, on its own, given some time. But if we want to facilitate that crystal to get back to its dominant oscillatory rate quicker, there is something we can do, and I call it retuning. It's basically like retuning an instrument, a guitar, a piano. I don't call it cleansing, because that has the connotation of the whole concept of doing it often, all the time, like taking a bath. So I talk more about this. I get more in detail about it in my Certified Crystal Healing course. But just to give you an overview here, something really simple and easy you can do to retune your crystal when it's necessary. It doesn't need to be done all the time, or if somebody touched your crystal, unless, again, that person was really high amplitude, like high emotions. Could be negative or positive. That could knock the crystal out temporarily. You can leave it alone and it'll go back on its own eventually. Or you can facilitate that to happen quicker, and the most practical method, my favorite method, is to use sound acoustics. I like sound because it's more practical and it's more effective from a scientific perspective. You can take the sound, you make a sound, and I'm going to use a tuning fork here. And that's sending energy vibrations out into our environment that we can't see. we are surrounded by vibrations of all different sorts that we're not able to see. We are affected by them, but we're just not able to see them because they're not visible light. So those energy sound waves went out into the environment just now. It affected me, but it went through the crystal and jarred its vibration and jarred its dominant oscillatory rate to go back into alignment, to its natural alignment. It's so easy. You don't have to do any kind of a saltwater cleanse. You don't have to take all your crystals out into the moonlight, although I do really like that practice for the ceremonial effect and spiritual effect that it has on me. I really like it, but I don't do it every single time. But I'm saying you don't have to feel guilty if you didn't do it. If you know your crystal needs it, you can do something really easy. And sound is just the easiest way. It doesn't have to be a tuning fork. It can be any loud sound. It can be music, but you want to turn it up loud so that the amplitude is high. That means the energy is high. You can also use something like a crystal singing bowl. These are very nice. And you can get the amplitude going really, really high where you can actually feel the vibrations penetrating everything in the environment. Now, people will often ask me, okay, great. What note should I use on the tuning fork? What note should I use on the crystal bowl? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because any sound is sound acoustic energy as long as it's high amplitude. You want to get it up high where you can feel it. You can feel it reverberating. I mean, it doesn't have to be tearing down the house, you know. You don't have to be having your neighbors call the police because your music is so loud, but you want to just make sure that it's penetrating, the energy vibrations are penetrating the crystal, and that will knock it back to its natural dominant oscillatory rate. Okay, so I hope that made sense to you, and I'd love to hear your take on this as well, so go ahead and post it in the comments in my blog, which the link is below, and I'll see you over there. Okay, thanks, bye, namaste.